And when we play the tones of our original music, it unlocks all the doors.
The biggest problem that humans have is they don't know how to control their mind. I've been manifesting things since I was 5 years old. Very powerful experiences in all areas. I want to understand how I'm doing this.
But what you were given, you held on to the frequency, that gift back then.
Your mind creates, your mind does this, your mind does that. I was focusing my mind to want something. That is the piece that was life-changing.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to use superhuman powers to manifest the life of your dreams, then do we have the Superhuman show for you. Today I'll be talking with Caroline Cory, writer, producer, and director of one of the most profound documentaries I've ever watched, Superhuman, about how to plug into consciousness, discover pure magic, and manifest what we desire. That, plus we'll talk about missile silos and MK Ultra, organs and resonance, Corey Feldman and vibrations, what on earth is a potentiostat, and what in the world finding potato chips when blindfolded has to do with anything. So welcome to the show, Caroline. Are you ready to shine?
I am so ready, Michael. So ready. Thanks for having me.
You are most welcome. For everybody listening, be sure to stick around to the end because later in the show, we'll be giving some techniques so that you can begin manifesting through consciousness today and doing a meditation just before the end. But before we dive right into things, has science definitively proven that our mind affects our reality?
So, yeah, I mean, that's because we've been talking about this, Michael, forever. Everybody tells us your mind creates, your mind does this, your mind does that. But it's just been like theory, and I wanted to go the extra step. I've been manifesting things since I was 5 years old. I've had experiences, very powerful experiences in all areas, communication with non-visible beings to healing and all of that, training many, many people around the world and also manifesting, right? But I felt like, and then I started working with scientists because it's like, wait, this is working. There's a mechanism there, but I didn't find enough science to, in other words, to demonstrate, to validate what so many people talk about. So that's the reason why I said we need to put this in a film format. After doing experiment after experiment with different scientists in laboratory conditions and showing the measurable effects of the mind over matter, over biological system, over the body, we've got such incredible results. I said, we got to make a film. We got to tell the world. And that's how the movie came about.
Woohoo! What's interesting to me is my next question is, does Newtonian physics have a problem? But the thing is, we stole Newtonian physics from Newton, a person who actually understood far more than we believe he did.
Exactly. But that's exactly the problem. We're trying to apply physical laws to non-physical phenomena. There's a problem right there. Newtonian laws apply to the physical world. But we're talking about mind. We're talking about intuition. We're talking about consciousness. These are all non-physical things. And so you have to look for a science that includes those parameters, that addresses those parameters. So I'm not saying it's not Newtonian laws, because there's a piece of that which I can talk to you about. But it's not just Newtonian laws. It's Newtonian laws plus this, what I call consciousness science. And it's very measurable. It's very real. But because mainstream science says Newtonian laws and that's it, then they have a problem. You see, but the minute you just go outside the possibility that there's another type of science that could exist, that could explain all these strange, paranormal things, then it starts to make more sense. And that is the purpose of this film, to demonstrate live on camera what these laws are, what these laws could be.
Thank you. And we're going to go to a bunch of the experiments in a minute, but I want to go back in time because interesting things happened to both of us at age 5. At age 5, I was thinking about the meaning of life and consciousness and what exists and what comes in and out of consciousness. I slipped on a Fisher-Price tool. I knocked out a tooth, which I was convinced was to remind me for life of what I was thinking of at age 5. Now, from what I understand, you were beginning to feel or sense energy. And my guess is you always felt and sensed energy. You were just now actually being able to anchor it in and go, hey, wait a second.
Yeah, exactly. So when I was 5 years old, which, like you're saying, there are quite a few children, it seems to be around that age, 4 or 5, when something quite dramatic happens that they would remember. So for me, I was in my parents' living room that day, and they did the whole Christmas thing. So I was looking around, and they were all fussing over the tree and the gifts and the food, and okay, I'm 5 years old, right? So I'm looking around and thinking, what are these people doing? And what does this have to do with like Christmas? What is, so I'm thinking that way. And more importantly, because they were like arguing and things like that, I said, these humans, there is no love. These humans don't know how to love. And I felt this real kind of disconnect with what I was observing for this kind of occasion and how I was feeling. And then I kept saying, why don't they know how to love each other? Why do they, I'm talking to myself, right? And all of a sudden, this huge body of light shows up. And I could tell it was more than one being. It was just like this huge, massive energy that starts to connect with me and talk to me. And so, of course, the energy was so loving. It was like, I felt like I was home. I felt like I was in this blanket of love, which I've just observed didn't exist, around me. And so, of course, I paid attention to that because it felt like that is what I was missing. That is what I was asking for. And all of a sudden, these beings are communicating telepathically with me. And they're saying, we are connected with you. We will stay connected with you your whole life. And if you want to continue this communication, you have to ask for it. And I said, how do I ask? How do I ask? And then they said, you just have to focus your mind, focus your intention. Just say what you want. You have to say it. So of course, I'm like 5 years old, right? It makes perfect sense. And so I'm like concentrating. I want this, And but what happened is I remembered how I was focusing my mind to want something. That is the piece that was life-changing. And so when I did that, they said, you got it, you did it. And so it felt like family. It felt like I was their counterpart. I was on this side of the veil and physical body, and they were my lineage, or my continuous stream of consciousness. So it was all the same thing. And another very important thing that I noticed is that there was no separation. It was the physical kind of continued on into the universal consciousness, the non-physical. There was no line, there's no boundary. So these two things, the way I communicated, the way I understood, not just telepathy, but the focusing when you want something, that is what stayed in me, with me at the age of 5. And so because nobody around, of course, I realized I could see the cellular energy, I could hear, I could sense. So I stayed with that idea that I could do these things, and it was no big deal. I didn't think I was special. I didn't think it was like, oh my God, I got to tell the whole world, because I thought everybody did that. So because of this, I kept doing things. Like I would look at someone and I knew exactly what was wrong with them. I would look on the other side of the wall and I knew what was there, what was happening. I would do these things so naturally my whole life. So, but eventually I started asking the question because as I grew up, I realized, wait, other people aren't doing this. So I am doing something different. Oh, okay. Well, what's that about? The first thing you think is that you're crazy. You're making things up. You have some anomaly in your brain or something like that. And so, but then as I said, I want to understand how I'm doing this. Like how the mechanism, not the fact that I'm doing it, but the fact that there is a mechanism that's making me see things before they happen, because then I would get validation. I would see a person and I would know something that happened to them when they were 7 years old, when they were born. They were born as a twin and the twin died. And I mean, very detailed, precise things that they never told me about. So by me asking the question, how is that possible? How does it work? That got me on the path of research, and not researching other people, but researching me. Like, what is it? And so I ended up spending 20 years. First of all, to rule out it's not an anomaly. My brain is not, doing some crazy stuff. It is doing the right stuff. And so, I started developing methodologies and testing them and working with people and teaching people and getting validation after validation after validation. People would heal things. People would see things. People, and then at one point you're like, this is not crazy stuff. Other people are doing it. Here's the validation. Here's the test, the before and after. This is real. And what is the science behind it? But that is the experience that got me, into this whole realm.
I love it. And one of the things we're going to be doing when we travel around, my wife and myself, is we believe that the majority of people have had similar, maybe not as profound, but similar experiences. But we were young, perhaps, and we ruled them out, or our parents ruled them out, or we came to doubt them, or we erased them from our memory because that couldn't be real. But what you were given, and it comes down to one word, frequency. What you were given was the hotel card to the universe. You put your hotel card into the key, it unlocks it. You held on to the frequency, that gift back then.
It is the frequency, because what what they showed me is that I had to focus on that frequency, their frequency. It was like, yeah. And that's what I mean. Like I had to, when you were saying, I want this, what is the this? The this is a frequency, is a specific vibration. And it's not as an angel. It's not, like any random ET, whatever. No. It is a specific frequency, and of course that eventually I know it is source frequency. And of course it's also an actual location within the universe. It's an actual, it has a physical component, but it's also an energy. It's also information, and it is a specific range of frequencies, and that is what stayed with me since I was 5, so that now, of course I had to develop a whole methodology to always go back specifically to that point. And that's why one of the things that I did is develop a meditation that's very specific, which is called Connecting to Source. And it holds that frequency that remained in my consciousness. And so by doing this meditation, I made it super simple for people. It's like 7 minutes just to kind of do it every day. It aligns your brain channels and you kind of plug yourself back into that frequency. But what is that frequency, if you don't mind me going into this real quick? That frequency is your original essence. It's not a past life, it's not any incarnation, it's not blah blah blah. It is the original essence of creation. So so you can't even go to a more pure form of existence. Why do I want to, when I'm looking for things or receiving guidance or wanting to heal, why do I want to focus on the trees or nature? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm looking for answers or focusing on the planet, and it's great. But if I want to know who I am, which is I am an infinite, boundless being that is creator, I create my reality, then I need to go back to the original me, how I was created. Does that make sense? So that's why this is so important.
To take that to, I don't know if extreme is the right word. No, it's the opposite of extreme. It's interesting. I was writing a white paper recently on a new paradigm in politics, and I was talking about the world as one giant symphony, as one giant harmony, and that we each have our own music, our own chords, our own notes. What you're talking about is going back to our original music, and when we play the tones of our original music, it unlocks all the doors.
Exactly, because it's not the outside world telling you or feeding you who you are, what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to create. It is just you. Imagine the freedom that you would feel when you tap back directly into your original universal consciousness.
Woohoo!
You become the original creator of you in the physical form. And so it's extremely powerful because you're completely letting go of how or who or what you're supposed to do and how it works and blah, blah, blah. Because if this is the original creator of you here, then you know it all because you created you, if that makes sense. Of course, it's a little bit more trickier than that. It's not just you creating you, but what I'm saying is you hold all of this information. You just have to realign with your original frequency in that way.
Thank you. Is there a protocol that you suggest? You've got me thinking in so many different directions. I really want to get to some of these experiments. But what you've got me thinking is about information. I think of the individual cell. And we don't know how a mitochondria works on a conscious level, unless you're a mitochondrial scientist, for instance. We don't know how it ended in microtubules or any of these things, but we do. All of the information is at the most microscopic level, the atomic level, at quantum level, and at the largest level. It's all a holographic representation of itself. So the information is always there before us.
Yes. We are information. What are you? What is DNA? It's information. It's a code that is information. It tells your body that you have to have blue eyes. It tells your body you have to be tall or small or whatever. It tells you, it's information, coded information, so that you appear this way. So it's the same for everything, for the fruit, for the nature, for plants, for trees, for animals. So visualize that it's all pieces of information that is all part of a larger pool of information.
So let's say we want to tap into this information, and we want to tap into this information, let's say for healing. And I know that there are many experiments, and you show them in the documentary, on playing with water, playing with pH, things of this sort, working with DNA and increasing conductivity. How can we start to tap into this information and literally change our bodies?
So again, those experiments, the reason why I chose these experiments is I thought they were relatable. So, for example, the pH, everybody knows alkaline bodies are healthier because the acidic environment allows the viruses and bacteria and things like that to thrive. So if your body is alkaline, then you don't allow these things to happen. And so that's the reason why I picked this experiment. And also the DNA, we all know we are DNA. And so I've done many of these experiments with Glenn Ryan, one of the scientists in the movie. And so we would take DNA samples from women's placenta. And what we would do is we would try to increase the conductivity in the sample. Why? Because we noticed there were other studies done by at the University of Caltech, I think, California, and they noticed that when the electrical conductivity, meaning the resistance, because electrical conductivity and resistance is what we're talking about here. So when you lower the resistance, then you are actually raising basically it's the electricity the flow of energy going through the DNA. So they noticed that when they did that, the DNA changed from a double helix shape to a torus-like shape. Interesting. Not only that it's responded in terms of the shape, but it starts to self-repair. Think about that. And this is so because of that, I said, well, so I've been doing this experiment with Glenn for over many years, so many trials. And so I would focus on the DNA. So I said, well, can we do it with our mind? Of course. And so I would try to focus on this DNA sample. And just by putting my intention, I'd be like, I want to raise the electrical conductivity in DNA. Michael, it is ridiculous how quickly it responds. I mean, which is not the same with other things, which I'm going to talk to you about. But the DNA, it's almost like it almost heard me before I even said it. And so we're measuring, right? We're in a lab. This is not random. And by the way, for those who are scientists, when we do things under laboratory conditions, we do what we call a baseline. We take the measurements over and over and over a long period of time. So we have like a reference point. And so exactly at the time at 3:00, I am focusing on this DNA sample and boom, it jumps 400%. Yeah. And then the minute I stop focusing on it, it goes back to the baseline. That's how we know there is a real effect happening. And of course, we have to do it over and over and over. And that's how we have scientific validation. And so I would look at it and like in split second, the thing like just jumps. And I did it over and over and over. And I did it live in the movie. And don't forget, in a movie, we have cameras, we have people, we have cable, we have like all this like stuff that's supposed to be interfering. And yet, of course, I've trained myself too, but many people can do this. And so that's why this experiment is so important for people to witness. So I included that, same with the pH. The pH, I think it took me, 10 minutes, maybe less. The pH, I would just look at a glass of water. And then same thing, we set up the experiment the same way. And then exactly when I'm focusing on it, I'm focusing, okay, I want the pH to go down or up, whatever. And then focusing. And we see the measurement. And so, I mean, how much more convincing do you have to be? You know what I mean? So these are the two experiments, that you refer to.
It's interesting. I want to know how you focus, but before we do that, it's making me think of Dr. Emoto and water, an early pioneer in this field, and DNA and how we're made up of water. It's almost like it's taking the intelligence of water to an entirely new level, because everything is consciousness, everything has awareness. And a dear friend of yours and mine, Dr. Dean Radin, was saying we're all capable of precognition, that there is no such thing as time. So it's almost in essence, before you even gave the command to your DNA, the DNA is going, aye, aye, Captain.
Yeah. And also, because I'm going to tell you, it's not the same when we're doing something with a physical object. But another experiment we did in a movie with Gene Radin in his lab is we noticed that the human body, I wanted measurable physiological things we can observe and measure on a computer. And so what he had been working with is just a simple experiment where you measure the eye, the pupil of the eye, and they noticed that there's a correlation between the pupils enlarging when you are triggered by a strong emotion, whatever it is, something that's scary or something that's um, whatever. And so that correlation has been established. And so in the movie, we have a subject, and we have this measuring the size of the pupils. And we're showing him images, very striking images, to trigger a very strong emotion. And what we noticed is that his pupil were dilating before the image showed up. So wait, how could you have a physiological measurable, I mean, we could tell how many millimeter, how, it was dilating, before something happens. This tells us that we are, obviously, that it's not your visual, it's not your physical eyes that triggered this, it's something else. So what is it? So you are tapping into information before the physical manifestation of whatever it is. Just right there. Wait, Newtonian laws? No.
This gets to, I had a whole program on this, but the instructor didn't resonate with me online, and I actually deleted it about 2 decades ago. It was a CIA instructor, and to this day I'm like, why did you delete that on remote viewing? Which, as you talk about in the documentary, literally, not only can people be trained, and people in the military have been trained, and even though they say they're not doing it now, I'm sure once it works, you keep playing with it. You're not going to put the toy back in the toy box. But like Carter had to cancel a whole missile program, not just because people could remote view, but you could remote view in time things that were to take place before they even took place.
Yes, exactly. And so another proof of that, of course, and we have that experiment in the movie where we literally trained someone who's never done remote viewing, who's never been to the area where we were filming. And we tell them how to do it, and they nail it. I mean, it's ridiculous, the stuff that she could see, but to the point of seeing it before it happens. So we noticed that, again, measurable, when we were working with the blindfolds. So the kids who are, so for people who, they'll see it in a movie, but basically I noticed that myself because I was training people to see with the blindfold online, not even in real life. And so they're completely blindfolded. And so what happens is in the exercise, we hold up a card and they tell us what it is, or a colored piece of paper. So orange, yellow, green, whatever. And so with a few times, what would happen is that I would hold up a colored card, and then the person would say, let's say it was red, blue, green. So the person would say, I would hold up the red, but then they would say blue. So I thought in the beginning, it was like, oh, it's they're not doing it correctly, And then it was like, wait, they're always one ahead. And what's up with that? So they were seeing the one that was going to happen after the one that I was holding up. And so, and it wasn't, this one person wasn't the only one. Many people were doing that. So instead of saying, uh-oh, they're doing it wrong, I wanted to look into why they were seeing the next one. And I didn't want to shut it off. I didn't want to tell them, you shouldn't do that. I told them, you are seeing actually the next card in perfect order. It was insane. It was like red, blue, green. So then when I held up the blue, it would be green. I mean, it was like boom, boom, boom. So then I would tell them, you are seeing the one ahead. So, and you are successful. Fantastic. Because you don't want to say you're doing it wrong. In the beginning, I was like, it's not red, it's not blue, and then you think you're doing it. So anyway, once we noticed that that's what was happening, then I would say, okay, so you got that, you nailed this. That's amazing. This is an added bonus that you are able to do. So now let's see if we can be more precise. Knowing that you've done that, see if you can go back, and say, intend for the one that I'm holding in exactly in this time and space continuum. And then just by doing this small adjustment, they were able to guess correctly the one that I was holding up and keep the ability of the next one that was coming up. So, I mean, it's like evidence after evidence after evidence that we are tapping into the unified field, a universal pool of consciousness, of frequencies, of information all the time. And what is the only thing that we have to do is know how to match what it is that we're looking for. That's it.
I would love it if you could teach us a little bit now. I was channeling, was it 3 months ago? I channel a different manifestation author for 4 weeks in a row. Right now it's Wallace Wattles. And the authors go in these most amazing directions because you can tap into their energy at any point. And Neville Goddard was saying, that when he wrote Think and Grow Rich, like in the 30s or 40s, that you were faking your subconscious into believing something. And he said, what I've learned on the other side is that's completely incorrect. What it is that you're coming up with the frequency. There's an infinitude of doors of possible futures. And what you're doing is getting the frequency of the door you want, and then that unlocks the door and you step through.
Yes, exactly.
How do we start to do that? What instructions, or can you give us a focusing exercise so that we can start to match frequencies?
Exactly. So the biggest problem that humans have is they don't know how to control their mind. So you have mind chatter, you have belief systems, you have emotions, and all of these are interfering with everything you're trying to do. If you don't pay attention to everything you're doing before you start the exercise, you're not going anywhere, because your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs are frequencies. How are you going to tap into the one frequency you want when you have 14 other frequencies asking for it? You are asking for it because your conscious mind is saying, oh, I want to retrieve the information. What planet did I come from? Or whatever. Or what is my life purpose? Whatever. Like one piece of information. So you are projecting that thought, that frequency. And at the same time, your subconscious mind is saying, I have no idea where to look. That's number one. And am I capable of doing that? Or what if I find out that I'm supposed to quit my job and do something else? Fears, belief system, all in your subconscious. So you're sending one frequency of what you want and 14 other frequencies of the exact opposite. You're not manifesting anything. So the first step is to notice all of that stuff, which is part of the training, and address it. So this brings me to the affirmation. People say, well, just say what you want, like strong enough, put gratitude behind it, put this in it. Yes, it's very helpful, but you're not getting rid of the other stuff. And once you create energy, you cannot destroy it. You can transmute it, but you don't destroy it. So the fact that you have this belief system that is like, oh my God, what if I find out that I'm supposed to leave my husband, or, what if, so So that once you have that thought, it's always there. Even if you pretend it's not there, even if you pretend like you could just ignore it by saying, I'm good and I'm healed and da da da. So that is I don't know how others do it, but that is the way that's the starting point. Once you have cleared all of that stuff, then you align specifically with the frequency of source. Again, why? Because that is the original you, that you knows everything, that you has all the powers in the universe, that you is the universe. And then after that, then you very clearly, specifically articulate what you want. It sounds very simple, but you'd be surprised. I teach this class called the Creative Formula. And the first step is to articulate what you want. And then so people say, well, I'm trying to create money. I'm trying to create a boyfriend. I'm trying, it's not happening, And so I say, okay, well, tell me what it is that you're saying. You'd be shocked how many people cannot actually say very clearly what they want. Or they'd be like, well, I think I would like to have someone in my life. You know what I mean? Like, it's so vague, it's so unclear, and the universe is like, what is it that you want? You know what I mean? So anyway, these are the three main steps, and then from there, of course, then when you receive the information, you also have to know how to manage it. So it's a protocol. These are steps, but that's what we teach, and that's the training, and it works. Once you have it, you can apply it to anything.
Thank you. I'm wondering if you can share with a little bit of the managing information. And I'm going back in time to right before I met my wife, and I actually had a checklist on my I don't know what you call it, not desk, bureau next to my bed, and I would run through that of who I was looking to call into my life. And I think she hit like 9 out of 10 on the list. I was open, but running through that and asking specifically. And here she is.
Ah, awesome. That's it. Yeah. So again, I think what's happening with you, because I'm sensing your energy as you were doing it then. And the reason why it manifests those 9 out of 10 is because you believed it was going to happen someday. I could tell, like, you're saying it knowing this is going to happen. I don't know how or whatever, but I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. And that is the belief that fueled the creation. And that is the protocol. It's not just saying it, because of course the words have a vibration, which also we demonstrate in the movie, by the way. We demonstrate how the voice carries the vibration, and the energy behind the voice also is measurable. So we show that in the movie. So that's what happened for you, Michael.
Thank you. How do we manage? You said we get the information in. How do we begin to manage what comes in, and how do we not get in the way?
So this is part of your, again, the belief system. So once you've cleared that, oh my God, what if I find that this and that, then you will start to receive, if you do this properly, you will receive information cellularly, meaning it's an experience. It's not like you could hear, take an example. We could hear, in order for you to manifest money, you have to quit this job and move in this direction, or something like that.
I heard I needed to go to a meditation center, and I wasn't sure, and I meet her there, and I wasn't sure which meditation center. So I showed myself a bunch of meditation centers. There's one in Denver, there's one in Boulder, there's one here. And then I felt, how does the body feel with each of these?
Exactly. And that's also part of, what you have to be able to make sure that it is aligned. It has to feel amazing. It has to feel like effortless. So that's, of course, how you discern. But what I'm saying, but also what happens is how you manage it. First you have to make sure that it's cellular. It's something you cannot deny, like the information that came through, it's not intellectual, it's something that you almost remember. And when you are at that place, you stay in this experience of what it is, then it's all about based on experience and feeling, then it will guide you towards what you're supposed to do. Sometimes it's doing nothing, but most of the time there's a little bit of doing, some, like you're saying, it's research a center, or call this person. You don't know why, but you feel like you're supposed to call them. So all these things appear. That's what I mean by manage, is that don't even do until you have received this information cellularly and you're feeling it as a remembrance of truth.
Thank you. I'm going to go to a chicken and the egg conundrum, which is a lot of people ask, hey, is it okay that I want to manifest XYZ, or is that my ego and I shouldn't do it? To which I'm always challenging them, where do you think the idea came from in the first place?
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. But also, what I do is sometimes I do an exercise called the world of probability. And so so like, let's say I want to attract money, but so is that aligned with me because I want to create beautiful things, or is that an ego thing? And so what we do is that you can experience it as if you have two timelines. And then you kind of get yourself in this space and you experience the one thing. I am doing it because I want to create beautiful things or whatever. And all kinds of stuff starts to come up for you. And then it's one of those things that we have to do, to really understand it. But you start to see that this path is not going anywhere. You see like a big wall, like I can't get past that. And the ego thing keeps going and going and going and going. And that's probably based on ego. So then you go back to the point of creation and adjust and delete the ego-based stuff, and re-articulate and realign your intention in the right way.
I call that following the flow line. If you're a skier, you follow the fall line. You go downhill till there's an obstacle, then you turn. You go downhill till there's an obstacle, and then you turn. What you're saying is you follow the energy until it stops, and then you pivot and you follow, and you do your best to stay in that energy, to stay in that river, that field, and it'll guide you.
Yes, exactly. It has to flow, and it has to feel expansive. That's another very simple exercise. What you were saying when you were looking for the meditation center. What I do is also help people kind of imagine that the head and the heart are two separate people, And so when I say, do you want to attract a relationship? So the person would say, yeah, I think I do. Already they said, I think. That's already right there. But then they say, yeah, I do. And I could tell, because I could see this little energy, I could tell it came out of this part of them. And so if you visualize that this part of you is a different person, and bring the energy down, like focus, like breathe in. And when you exhale, like you are now here. And this is a different person. It's not you. It's like you're talking to another person. I'm talking to my friend so now I'm here and I'm asking my friend, this other person, what does she think about creating a relationship? And this is the authentic answer. The heart center is going to expand and feel amazing, or it's going to bring up all the blocks. So you'll know where you're blocked, so you're going to feel like some sort of anxiety. That is a block. You're not going to create a relationship if you have anxiety about creating a relationship. So like we said earlier, you have to clear that. So you clear the anxiety. Then something else comes up, of fear that I'm going to be abandoned, whatever. Same thing. You have to clear until you get to a place of being totally neutral. And what is being neutral? Is being in perfect alignment so that when you say something, boom, there's no resistance, no resistance. And so that is a simple exercise that we can also do to make sure that what you're saying is really authentic and aligned with who you really are.
Thank you. Is there a specific or a favorite clearing technique that you like to use?
Yeah, so I have a whole thing of, it's called the Healers Program on my website, but a very simple, easy one that uses intention, because you can use color. I use geometry, sound, all kinds of different techniques, gravity pull and all kinds of other things, but these are a bit more tricky. But in terms of something that anybody can do very easily using intention. So like I was saying, we're focusing on the heart. You ask the question, I want to attract a relationship or something. And so stuff comes up. You notice it. You really try. Sometimes people, sometimes they tell me, I don't think I'm feeling anything. And then, or I'm not sure what I'm feeling. So it's almost like you can use a technique of like, as if you had a camera, you keep zooming in. It's like you keep focusing deeper and deeper on what it is until you identify the exact feeling. Once you do, then you focus on the feeling and you notice where it is in your body. So sometimes it's in the chest, usually relationships, it's in the chest or the heart or the gut, the stomach, the higher stomach up here. And so you focus on this area and you say, I ask and intend, very clearly focused on it. I ask and intend to release the feeling of anxiety about creating a relationship. I release this feeling and this belief from every cell in my heart, my lungs, my stomach, my throat, my brain, from every cell in my body, my conscious, my subconscious, and my cellular memory. And you breathe in. As you exhale, you imagine particles of energy coming out, like being purged, like you visualize all kinds of stuff coming out from your whole body, all these areas that you mentioned. And then you regroup. So I don't feel anxiety now, I feel sadness for some reason. And when I focus, I zoom in on the sadness, I see my mother, for example. I'm just making this up. When I focus on that, I feel that she was sad about relationships because her husband, my dad, left her, for example. So now I'm focusing on something that is in me. You'll be surprised when you do this exercise, all the stuff that comes up. You'll be like, I don't know why, but I'm thinking about my brother or whatever. So then you focus on this same thing. Where do I feel it? I feel it in my liver. I feel it in my, I feel it somewhere here or whatever. So then you focus on it, because guess what? All these thoughts, all these beliefs are inside your cells. They're inside. And so you are seeing where they are, basically, or feeling. So I feel it here. I ask and intend to release my mother's frequency of sadness, my sadness, that my dad left my mom. And therefore, it is affecting my fear, my ability to create a healthy relationship, from every cell in my liver, from every cell in my pancreas, my ribs, every cell in my body, my conscious, subconscious, cellular memory. Breathe in. As you exhale, all kinds of stuff is coming out, it's purging. I guarantee you will feel such a peace. You would be in this place of just being at peace with who you are. Then you ask for creating the relationship.
Woohoo! Total, complete sense, because you're not pushing against the blocks. You're releasing the blocks.
You are letting go. And the blocks you created, these are thoughts that you had at the age of 7 when you saw your mother struggle when the dad left her. It creates an imprint. First of all, you're energetically connected with the mother, so you're feeling what she's feeling. But also, it creates a belief system. Oh my God, relationships bring sadness. These thoughts that you have at the age of 7 are frequencies. We talked about that emotions and thoughts are frequencies. Once you emit them, they don't go away. You know, once you produce energy, it will always be there. So where does it go? Like, I mean, where does it go? It goes into my body. It goes into my cells. It's my cells are feeling this. And so until fast forward till you're 27, you stumble through a bunch of relationship, 30, then you wonder, why am I struggling with relationship, blah, blah. And then at the age of 40, you've accumulated now whatever was one thought, one emotion became 500,000 thoughts and emotions that are built on the very first emotion and thought. And so now you have this major bubble and you're struggling and you can't attract a healthy relationship where you're happy. All you have to do is know the very first one thought, one emotion at the exact point in time and space. And you put it there, you take it out consciously. And because you've accumulated all of that stuff on top of it, that is going back to the root cause. When you take out that root cause, it's like a domino effect. All these other additional beliefs and additional experience starts to fall off because the base is gone. The root cause is gone. And that's when the healing happens. If you keep saying affirmations up here with all these bubbles and all this mess, does that make sense? That is why the methodology, the one that I've created, is knowing exactly where that very first thought, very first belief system is, and changing it.
Few last key topics, and we'll dive into a meditation here. I want to go to psychokinesis for a minute, or more specifically, you talk about a technique in psychokinesis about switching from linear function to 100% capacity of the brain, where the brain functions as a whole. And it seems to me that any of what we're talking about, whether it's attracting a partner, whether it's attracting anything, whether it's changing anything in our lives, we want that whole thing singing together.
Exactly. So that's what I was saying. Once you are in this alignment, your brain channels are specifically planted or plugged into that frequency, and your brain stops functioning in a linear fashion. You kind of go, just like the DNA goes from double helix to a torus shape, the brain does the same thing. You start to retrieve information because your brain is experiencing the information. It's not using the frontal lobe and this, like you hear something, you analyze it, then you say it, and blah, blah, blah. And so your brain functioning is different. So in the movie we did, so also just a quick side note, I was telling you earlier that when you do mind over matter with water or the DNA, the effect is like ridiculous. It's like boom, But when you are doing telekinesis, you're trying to move a piece of paper, an object. The experience is very, very different. It was so weird because the very first time I ever tried this, I felt like the piece of paper was like talking back to me. It was saying like, I don't want to rotate, And so I was like, what? Like it's as if it had an ego, I want to say. It was pushing back. And so I was like, wait, this is the very first time I tried it. And I realized it's completely different working with a biological system, which is organic, and working with an object. And so there's a bit of protocol that you have to also go through when you are doing telekinesis and working with objects, because it's not the same thing. And so I just thought that was kind of a funny, interesting note.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that protocol? And you've got me thinking of our pet Ruru the rooster, and if you approach him head on as a rooster, he will push back as well.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you work with people energetically, like you're trying to help them, for healing and stuff. And you can feel the resistance. You can feel you're being pushed back. Same with the rooster. A rooster is, obviously has a different type of consciousness. But when you're talking about a piece of paper that you're trying to rotate, where did this piece of paper come from? Does it have an organic consciousness? Not really in that way. Its consciousness is not the same as plants or an animal or us. But it has a form of consciousness that was brought in, if you will, or that was kind of integrated by the paper came about from the guy who cut the tree and the guy who took it to the factory and the guy who put it through the machine and then it was cut this way and colored and put in a package. All of this is interaction, is information coming from outside itself, outside the tree. Like we said earlier, once there is information, once there's energy, once it's there, it cannot be destroyed. So all of this information is part of the piece of paper. Yeah. So I'm thinking, it's organic, it's a tree. Yeah, but not really. So the guy who cut the piece of paper and put it in a package had a horrible day that day. His kids at school made a mess and he's about to lose his job or whatever. All of these thoughts and emotions of that guy who's in the factory, who's cutting the piece of paper, is now embedded in the paper. Think about that. Because energy by definition is vibrational. So when you vibrate, you interact with other energies. I mean, that's the way it works. And so this is something that's completely inconceivable from modern science. Like what? Like your energy, your beliefs are inside your piece of paper or your piece of, why do you sit on a couch and feel weird? Why do you go to a furniture store, for example, and then you have the exact couch, the exact same thing, but then you go, I don't know, not this one, I want that one. Or when you go to a store and you're picking up an apple, of course, the color or the size, whatever, but still, or something that's packaged, exact same package, exact same spinach, exact same thing. But then you don't take the first one that's on top, you take this one or that one. Why? So did you see what I'm saying? And so we don't realize how much we are always interacting with all of life, physical, non-physical, biological system, water, DNA, doesn't matter. And so when you think that way, now you can use it to your advantage, because when I look at the piece of paper and I want it to move and I pick up all that stuff, so now I have to delete it. Just like I took out my stuff, I got to help the piece of paper go back to its original self. You see, there's a lot of things that you learn and understand. And so not only that, that's the first step. Once the piece of paper goes back to its original free will, so to speak, its original self, now knowing that I am connected to all aspects of life, physical, non-physical, whatever, I can start, this is one of the tricks, obviously. I can visualize that I'm trying to move an object with my hand, even at a distance, which we've done, even in a Faraday cage, which we've done. So if I'm connected, I can start to visualize that my body doesn't end here because it's my hand that wants to move it, right? My body doesn't end here. Like even though I only see my hand, but I also see some sort of like my hand extends, all the way. And it's basically touching and moving the object, except not here, but like there, because my hand continues on, you see. So this is one of the tricks of how to move something, but also there's other ways too, visualizing the temperature molecule, the air molecules and things like that around the object. But just, crazy stuff, but amazing stuff.
Last thing, and then we get to dive into the meditation. Although I want to make sure that we send people to your website. Actually, let's dive into that first. Then I'll get this one last thing. Where can people go to find your amazing documentary, to find your classes, to find your courses, to find all of your work? Give us the works.
So for the movie, people can watch it on Amazon Prime. It's Superhuman, the Invisible Made Visible on Amazon Prime. Otherwise, they can go to the website superhumanfilm.com. They'll see other platforms as well. And then they'll see classes, because what's happened is that people watch the movie and they go, oh my God, where can I learn to see with the blindfolds, which we didn't talk about that much, but telekinesis, how do I this and that? And so they on superhumanfilm.com, they can learn, have these classes. And my website, carolinecory.com, there's a ton of sessions and classes on guidance system, increasing your ability to tap into the universe, and so on and so forth. So lots of material. And my YouTube channel too has like maybe 150 free meditations and things that people should take advantage of.
Cool. Thank you. So the last two questions that I have is the most mind-blowing thing and of the entire documentary. And if you watch the documentary for just one thing, it's this. There are kids playing soccer, pulling out Frito-Lays, that are reading complete, and there's a person who can't read anymore reading blindfolded.
Yes. Seeing behind their back, riding bikes. So when I first saw these kids, I thought, okay, there's got to be a trick. There's all kinds of stuff on the internet. Let me investigate it, because I want to do something real, something scientific. So I met them myself. I went over there and I saw with my own eyes how it works. It's completely dark. And I would do things that they weren't expecting. So I would hold up something that they didn't know I was going to do, or I would write something on a piece of paper. So they didn't know. So they couldn't have memorized the text or what have you. And then the way they maneuver, I mean, even some people say, well, maybe there's light leaking a little bit. Yeah, well, try putting a blindfold on, even if there's a little bit of light leaking. I mean, try riding a bike with that. I mean, it's first, and of course, there's no cheating. We know the masks and we see everything. So it was so mind-blowing that I investigated the phenomenon further, and I saw other groups doing it all around the world, adults as well. And so I wanted to also make sure, to show validation. And this Russian group also had talked to science. They had measured with a group of scientists the amount of light inside the mask, and it was zero, meaning zero light photons you're not supposed to see. And yet, they were reading, they were doing everything perfectly. And so then we had even more scientific validation. And then we taught it ourselves online. I mean, we know what the masks that we provide. We know how the training goes. And people are able to see completely in darkness, totally blindfolded. To me, that was the ultimate validation that consciousness can basically tell your brain to reprogram itself. You're supposed to see with light. Okay, now I'm telling you to see without the light. That's crazy insane. And yet, that's what happens. So to me, that was the ultimate validation that consciousness is fundamental. It is consciousness that manages, that controls, not in a negative sense, but the physical world, and not the other way around.
I've done experiments with this. Not to this extent years ago. I've got my eyes closed as I'm doing this because I'm bringing myself back to that state. And I had seen these kids online as well. But to see what you did and to see them in action in the documentary is it bursts your bubble. You're done. Paradigm over. Physical ain't physical. You are one with everything. There is no separation. It's all information, and on it goes. There's not enough words that are strong enough to describe. You'll see they're completely blindfolded, doing everything.
Everything. And they're seeing behind their back. So for people who are saying, oh, the mask is leaking or whatever, no, this is real. And so that's why I had to include this. And also, like I said, we start teaching the classes and everything, so we know the training and how it works. And what I like about this, okay, so you have eyes. Why would you put yourself through this training? It's not about just that. What you're doing is training your brain to respond to your command. That's what you're doing. So you are telling your brain, I want you to do specifically this, and it does. And so when you do that, all kinds of things start to happen. So for example, with kids, they start to feel very confident. They're more focused. A lot of them, we hear it helps with autism and ADHD and things like that. Some people have some positive side effects. Like this one person in the class, she had an eye problem, which had nothing to do with, she wasn't focusing on it, but it got healed through the process. So we don't really know the mechanism. We're still investigating, but there's all these kind of very positive side effects that happen from this training as well.
I'm going to take the training. I'll report back to you. I'm going to put it on social media. Everybody can follow, and I'm hopeful that others will want to do this training as well. I've been training myself recently, just geeking out, which is watching the world out of my periphery and seeing how that completely changes my perspective. And so this, I feel, is like taking that to an entirely new level. Forget about the periphery. There is no periphery.
Exactly. Because in fact, that's one of the training, one of the exercise that we do is you try to look to the side, and then you imagine that your eyes can continue rotating all the way around 360. So it's like very cool stuff, but I have to say, for adults, it's a little bit more tedious. Kids, you just they just do it. It's but for adults, it takes a little bit of training, more time. So just kind of a heads up.
No worries at all. Any last words of wisdom you want to share before we dive into whatever you feel calls for a meditation?
Well, I just want to say that, the first thing is for people to just do it. I think we're always kind of questioning and wondering, did I just make this up? Did my guidance tell me this? And I think that's the biggest problem. And we're at a different juncture in society right now, in this timeline, that I think a lot more people than we think are accepting of these things. Gosh, we're talking about UFOs in Congress now, so just to let go of the stigma or what you thought. And every time you have a teeny tiny bit of evidence that you did something, just say, I did it. I did it. And the more you do that, the more you keep building and you start to feel who you really are. Well, if I did this, then I can do that, and I can do this, and I can do that. And then before you know it, you take your power back. And I feel that this is the time. Stop worrying. Just do it. Just do it. Besides, your mind is free. So what does it cost you? When you have a stomach ache next time, focus on it. Try to shift the pH. I guarantee you do that a few times and it just happens. It just happens.
Woohoo! And to me, and we'd go there at another time about us being, whether it's a simulation, a holodeck, whatever we want to call it. I feel like consciousness is ever expanding, it's ever growing, it's ever increasing in awareness, it is spiraling upwards. And working on this as an individual is working on this as a collective, is shifting everything for everyone. And so it's something that you can geek out on your own that will change your life. But as you change, you're changing everyone around you as well.
Absolutely. We just mentioned so many times. You are a unit of consciousness, part of a larger, and all energy is interconnected. What you do here affects the neighbors, affects the neighborhood, affects people on the other side of the planet. That's the universal laws of creation.
Woohoo! Thank you so, so much, Caroline. Would you mind leading us in anything at all you feel called?
So I wonder, now that, we've gone through this conversation, I wonder if, of course, I have many meditations, but maybe I'll just do the simpler one, the one we've been talking about, which is connecting to source, which is just go back to this one frequency. It seems quite simple, but it's really, I want you to just feel what that frequency is like so that you can go back and do it also. It's on my website too and YouTube channel, and it's free. So let's do that. What do you think?
Why not? Why not? Sounds perfect.
Yeah, because if we start kind of doing the exercises to create something, whatever, but we don't have that base, then So let's do that today. Okay, here we go. Sit up straight with your feet flat on the floor and close your eyes. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose. Deep breath. Exhale through the mouth. Again, breathe in through the nose. Deep breath. Exhale through the mouth. Every time you exhale, bring your focus to your heart, to this moment in time. Again, deep, deep breath in through the nose. Deep breath. Exhale through the mouth. Focusing on the heart, on this moment in time. Say quietly in your mind, I ask and intend to create a sacred space. I ask to let go of all the distracting thoughts, distracting energies, distracting information. My intent is to align my brain channels to connect directly into the source, the essence of who I really am. Breathe in through the nose. As you exhale through the mouth, from the heart expand 360 degrees and put yourself in a sphere of light. It is very quiet, very peaceful inside this sphere of light. As you are focused inside the sphere of light, say, I ask and intend to release all the misaligned energies and blocks from my physical body and my energy field. Breathe in through the nose. As you exhale, imagine that you are purging all the misaligned energy and you are clear. Imagine there is a point at the center of the universe. You don't have to know where or how to get there. Your higher consciousness knows to connect you, to allow you to find the source at the center of the universe. Begin to visualize, feel, see, sense this center as a bright, bright, bright light. Breathe in through the nose as you exhale through the mouth. Imagine that you are bringing a piece of this light back with you, creating a pathway through space from the center of the universe, through space, through the galaxies. Keep coming through the center of the Milky Way. You don't have to know how, simply say, I'm bringing source through the center of the galaxy, through the Pleiades, through Orion. And now you are at the Earth boundary, about 7,000 miles above your physical location. Focus on this light. Breathe in through the nose. As you exhale, again, continue to come down, bringing that light from space, creating a path of light all the way down. And you land right above your current physical location. That light is right above your head now. And slowly bring it down through the top of your head. Slowly, slowly. Every cell in your skull, in your brain, is now absorbing this pure, pure white light. Recognize you are absorbing source. Imagine every cell in your brain, in your head, in your jaw, your neck, your throat, your shoulders, slowly absorbing this light. It now fills every cell in your chest, your entire heart, lungs, back, down through your arms, all the way to the tip of your fingers, and down through your stomach, your lower belly, your lower back, your thighs, your knees, all the way down through your calves, your ankle, your feet, and out through the bottom of your feet, anchoring you into the ground. Breathe in through the nose. As you exhale through the mouth, bring your focus to your heart. And just keep visualizing this light that started at the center of the universe that is going through your entire body and out through your feet into the earth. That path of light is all source. Every cell in your body is absorbing this source light. As you allow this to continue, focusing on the heart, say quietly in your mind, speaking from the heart, I want to be who I really am. I want to experience in the physical who I really am. I want to be source, divine, pure essence in this physical body at this moment in time. As I move forward on my earthly path. And so it is. Breathe in through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Continue to allow this source flow to go deeper and deeper and deeper into your cells. And slowly, whenever you're ready, open your eyes. Normally, you should just stay there for several minutes, but can you talk?
I'm jello.
If you just stay focused in the heart and you can, what are you feeling?
A bizarre term came to me.
Uh-oh.
No, but I'm generally speaking vegan, and the term bliss burger popped into my consciousness. I am a bliss burger.
Let's stick with the bliss part.
I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting. I am bliss right now. Oh my God, it feels good. It feels so good.
How does your body feel?
Tingly and light.
Light, tingly and light. That also, do you feel a certain peace? You don't need anything. You don't have to do anything. You just are.
Right in here. Peace in the heart.
Yeah. Yes.
It also, there's a connection. The connection is there.
Yeah.
I can see it. I can feel it. Just because I'm talking to you, the connection hasn't stopped.
Exactly. Now, because you're in this very peaceful, very allowing, you need nothing. You don't have to do anything. You just are. Now you create. Now you attract.
When you were doing the experiments in the documentary, and moving the paper and moving other things, it was when you let go of the need for them to move. When you got to this state, then they moved.
Exactly.
This has been so beautiful, Caroline. I'm totally blissed out. This has been so beautiful. I cannot thank you enough. This was awesome.
Oh, you were amazing too. Thanks so much for having me. This was a blast.
You are most welcome. Got to crank it back up for the finish.
Yeah.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get superhuman, and get Superhuman, the film. Actually, what's the subtitle? Let's throw the subtitle in here. Get Superhuman.
The invisible made visible.
And begin manifesting and making the invisible made visible in your life today, and above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo! I got more than I bargained for in this one. I hope you got more than you bargained for with Caroline Cory as well, on manifestation, on playing with information, on discovering our true information, our true essence, on plugging into the center of the universe. How does it get any better than this? How does it get any better than this? Wow, what a special interview that is being celebrated by kitties far and wide on their scratching pads. Nonetheless, if you want to connect with the universe, if you want to connect with angels, if you want to connect with the source of all that there is, check out the automatic writing experience. It is a way you can get in your space capsule. You can connect with the universe. You can connect with the divine, and you can truly begin connecting with and attracting, drawing yourself toward anything in life you desire. All the automatic writing experience, you can get it at automaticwriting.com, both the book or the video-based program. Certainly you can get it on Amazon as well. Bring your receipt back. You get tons of bonuses at automaticwriting.com. If you love this video, be sure to check out more videos here. Click the like button below, leave your comments, big thumbs up, subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified of upcoming shows, YouTube premieres, and live events with me. And above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo! Love you guys.